everyone, this is your host Sneha Kumari signing in from Los Angeles. Extremely delighted to host my yet another episode in association with Offsite Dirt. And today, my guest is Robert Johnson from FrameCad. I'm super excited to have him. The stars didn't align. Otherwise, he was going to be my first guest on this show. But here we are, nonetheless, doing this. Robert and I have known each other for good three and a half
Mhm.
years. In
Mhm.
fact, like as I started my journey in construction, he was the person who actually I started working with and just been there together, working together for so long. So I'm super excited to bring him on our show and actually let you all, our listeners, leave with tons of nuggets of learnings from his experience in offsite construction, prefabrication, manufacturing. A quick intro, but I'm going to let him speak, as I said. And then towards the end, we'll have 2 to 3 takeaways for you to go back and actually implement in your day to day. Robert is a seasoned construction professional with about 40 plus years of experience. That's a lot in construction industry.
Yeah,
And
I'm ancient old. Yeah.
no, I mean, I
Yeah.
mean,
Uh-huh.
we really need to know her, but I'm not implying that you're
Yeah.
old.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. Uh-huh. It's
Uh,
okay.
and he has worked in both commercial and residential sectors. His experience ranges from working in the field as a carpenter to actually now leading teams across the globe. So I'm super excited. I'll let Robert you spill all the beans about how you fell into construction, and then we'll get into more questions. So over to you.
Okay. First of all, thank you for making me one of the last that you finally decided to start on your show.
You know.
So you start by saying that I was going to be the first one, but I wasn't the first one. So I don't know if I'm going to speak for the next
Oh,
15, 20
come
minutes.
on, come on. You know why you did why weren't
I
you?
do. I
You're
do. I do. No, first, thank you for doing this. It is so exciting to see you actually getting into it and doing this because you'll do fantastic at it. Um, so let's see. I hate talking about me. You've already explained that I'm as old as dirt, which is a play on your offsite dirt. So I'm hoping everybody's as old as dirt. But yeah, I started in construction when I was 15 years old. So
See, you're not
um,
old.
yeah,
When you
no,
start that young,
15 years old. Like I mean, I've been doing it since I was a child. So yeah, started out in residential construction, then went to commercial construction. My career has taken me from being a journeyman carpenter to estimating, and I was a for 3 years in the middle there. I was a business owner of an underground utility business here in the Phoenix, Arizona market, and got back into the building trades, estimating, general management. Been VP of business development, and I brought it full circle to now I am the business development manager for Western North America for FrameCAD. And FrameCAD is a manufacturer or supplies manufacturing systems for cold form steel, wall panels, trusses, and things of that nature. So yeah, it's been a fun journey, and I'm glad it took me all these years to finally land at a place that I think is a good fit for me.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, the experience that you have specifically in this industry and different sectors is phenomenal. Like so far, I have like there are like probably I can literally say 2 or 3 people who I know in this industry who have been here for so long. So we'll start with a little bit about your journey. Like, was this like getting into construction a childhood dream, or this was something that just one thing led to another or something like that?
So in other words, what you're asking is like when I was a child and I was sitting around with my buddies and they were talking about wanting to be firemen and astronauts and stuff, was I like,
Yeah.
no, I want to haul bricks.
Yeah.
No, but what's funny about that is that when I got out of school or was going to school, um, the trades when I was younger was a much more appealing thing for young men. Um, it was an opportunity to get out of school and immediately start making good money. And so, when people were leaving and going to college, and I was leaving and starting in construction, I was able to flash cash and everybody else was still broke. So it was kind of, plus I got married when I was very young. I was 18, my wife was 19. So I had to work. I had to be, the breadwinner, and construction was what did it for me. So I wouldn't say a dream. I've always loved it. I've always enjoyed it. But it's just the thing that I really, was good at. And so I just stuck with it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, something that you started with and you stuck with, and the fact that you have been in this industry for so long speaks for itself for your passion and love to continue contribute to the industry. Before I get to my next question, I do want to let my listeners know that Robert himself actually has been hosting podcasts for a couple years now. And
Mhm.
so it's interesting for me to host a host of many podcasts. So it's kind of a nervous moment for me too, but I'm sure Robert is enjoying being on the other side of the
I am. Yeah, actually.
table. All right. So let's get into some of special projects that you remember from this vast experience that you have that was full of challenges. I'm sure many of them, but something
Yeah.
that comes to mind that our listeners can take lessons from.
Well, let's do something that's near and dear to both of our hearts. And so when it's specifically and kind of around the offsite construction prefabrication um, topic, uh, because I love problem solving, and it's always a part of construction because you are doing uh, so much of it real time, and having to make decisions on the fly and in the field and do things like that. So I really like the whole problem solving piece. My initiation into prefabrication and manufacturing um, was quite the shock, because you and I met when that journey pretty much first started.
Mm-hmm.
And to and this is why I think it's so great to have formats like this where this can be discussed, is that people in the construction world, and I love the whole Leanify construction thing, because we're builders, we're people that put on tool pouches and read plans and do things like that, and we see the benefit in prefabrication and offsite construction and all that brings in leanifying or industrializing the construction process. Uh, and but it's a completely different animal from what we've all been trained and what we all do. So, now there's tracking systems and processes, and there's all these different things that come into it that were never something that we had to be good at before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would say that as far as challenging project, the challenge has been, especially here in North America, because this is still relatively a new thing
Mm-hmm.
in the construction market, although it's gotten so much more traction over the last 2 or 3 years, but it's still relatively new in North America. And although it's been done all over the country, all over the world for many, many years, for once, the US is kind of bringing up the rear and not really leading the charge on that, especially out west out here. It's been very slow to adapt. So The challenge has been making that step from construction to manufacturing, and and doing it right, and then improving that process. So it includes many projects, but I think that's been the key, or been what has been the most exciting and interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the mindset also needs to change, right? Yes,
Oh,
we are doing construction, but we are innovative now, and we are actually, so and we also need more manufacturing professionals come in, or at least learn from their experience on making the most of this process. I mean, I do believe that that's where Offsite is going, and
mhm.
has a lot of potential to improve, be efficient, unlock productivity while they are doing what they are doing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, your journey here, like moving from Offsite, like really building
Mhm,
panels, trusses, and
mhm,
then now being on this side of actually being with FrameCAD, and now you're
mhm,
traveling across the world.
mhm.
How do you see industries functioning differently? Is it different in the United States versus, say, New Zealand or somewhere else that you're traveling?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, major. So as you know, I just recently was fortunate enough to spend some time in Australia and New Zealand, and spent a couple of days visiting operators,
Mm-hmm.
some manufacturers there, both small and large, and seeing what was happening in the construction world. And it's funny that on my end, I thought that I was going to show up and everything in Australia was built out of light gauge steel, and it wasn't the case at all. It Light gauge's building has taken about 20% of the residential home building market. Um, However, FrameCAD owns about 40% of that market. Um, so that means that, let's call it 20% is utilizing offsite construction and prefabrication
Mm-hmm.
methods with cold form steel. There are others that are doing it with lumber, et cetera, there.
Yeah.
But when we look at that, and then think about what it appears to us on this side, and the enormity of the North American market compared to Australia, compared to New Zealand, for us to get 10% of the North American market would be enormous. And so I think that's, for the last several years, I have spent a great deal of my time talking about the innovation and the technology, the systems, the, you know, when we first started talking, we were talking about building MyTech trusses, and, cutting stuff by hand, and chop saws and band saws. And in the middle of that conversation, we bought FrameCAD systems,
Mm-hmm.
and change the way that we started doing it. So I've been learning about the systems, talking about the systems, really figuring out, all the strengths, weaknesses, how to try to make those systems better. And it was just a logical step for me to step into the system side, as opposed to being an operator, fabricator, manufacturer. So it's been fun, but you're right. Seeing how things are done differently around the world is huge. I had a guest on my podcast that will come out in October, November. Build It Better podcast. I thought you were going to say it out loud, but I'm going to give the plug. They'll look at it and then they'll never listen to you again. But
Yes, I am going to
they'll
give
be
that a
looking, be
plug
going,
towards
they'll be
the end.
going to
Yes.
mine. Yeah, but the gentleman is based in Los Angeles, but they are going to manufacture in India.
Hmm.
They are going to panelize completely, shipping containers. They have a system for shipping in a container so things don't get bent, and et cetera. And they figured out a way to do it to where they can have all of that done in the same time that if somebody here in the States was doing it. Um, and of course, the reason they're doing it is the labor in India is so much cheaper than it is here. So they have a team of 150, 175 people in India. 45 or 50 here, and they're doing exactly that same thing. So it's people figuring out different ways to get to the end result of designing, assembly,
Mm-hmm.
fabrication offsite, and then standing up and very quickly with very, very precise panels and trusses be able to put together projects in record time.
Got it. I mean, so it's not just, here, North America and
Mm,
Europe. I mean, Asia is also, catching up and
huge.
probably might be doing it better. We probably like I
Yeah.
probably am not aware. So I
Yeah.
mean that's great progress. I mean, I do think that we still got time to
Hmm.
adopt site
Oh,
to
I
the
agree.
scale that we would like to. But someday
Hmm.
I think there has been progress especially in the past few years that I have started being
Hmm.
associating with this industry. The reach has definitely increased.
Oh, yeah.
And your answer kind of gives me a good segue to get into, under like your experience, and you and I have worked on this, on how technology plays a very critical role in transforming this industry.
Oh,
And
has to.
thinking about manufacturing. So tell us a little bit about it, about your experience without tech and then with tech, and the possibilities.
Yeah, well, we were clearly doing it without tech. Um, and before you and I started talking, which is what was the driving force to the conversation, was we saw the need, or at least I saw the need for technology or being able to use technology to make us better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are at a place in society and in our world where we have a whole lot of data that we can be holding, keeping, and learning from that we don't. If we continue to work in that construction mindset of it's one project, it's no big, we just build or we get done. But if we start really learning how to build processes and how to learn from the data that we're getting, um, doing that through, really the only way you can do it is through technology. The most efficient way to do it is through technology. And so not just the manufacturing equipment side, but software systems, robotics. I mean, when you talk technology, you can go into so many different
Everything.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things they have the ability to make the process better. You and I both know that one of the biggest problems, let's talk software for a second. One of the biggest issues is you can have the best software package in the world, but if you can't get the team to use it, put the information in they're supposed to, it's going to sit, it's going to gather dust. People are going to be upset. They don't want to fool with it. Software's too expensive. Uh, and so it has to be implemented. It has to be used. It has to be coached. It has to be a constant process of learning and using. And so that's where construction people have had a tough time, um, and probably will. But those that are into manufacturing and have now been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years in the States are starting to understand the importance in that, and it's becoming the norm to leanify your process in your shop.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and of course, like when we say tech, there's a lot of things that
Mhm.
is augmenting and, supporting and
Oh,
automating some of your redundant tasks. In this case, we are speaking softwares, mostly, but in my experience, and I think Robert, you too, like there's a lot of software fatigue in the industry today. Everyone has probably purchased 15 to 20 softwares doing different things. None of them are talking to each other. People don't have a clue where things are. And even
mhm.
if you say go to a project manager and ask for the status of where we are at, are we profitable, what are the projects, they'll probably have to go back, take 2 3 days to understand all the data where the projects are, and then give you a snapshot. How
Mhm.
wonderful would it be if all these systems talk to each other? So that's one part of fatigue. So then I don't I wouldn't say that people are to be blamed in that case, because none of them are talking
Mhm.
to each other. the companies made the choice of buying 17 different softwares when they did, or whoever, guided them to do that. The other part then comes to adoption. I think they go hand in hand in the sense that if the software is not seamless enough, and then it's harder for people to adopt. If people don't see what's in it for them, right, they could probably go back home today in 8 hours versus 13 hours because they are sitting doing manual work. I think those are the messages that need to get to them, and it cannot just be an executive decision to implement a software and okay, let's
But what's interesting is I think we drive it. I think the mentality that humans have nowadays is driving a lot of that problem. I'm thinking about it. When you were talking about buying all these softwares, they don't talk to each other. We have phones and we've got apps and apps and apps because we find one that does something cool that we like, and so we get it. And so now I've got a phone that's got 5 screens on it with apps. I might use 3 of them.
yes.
But it's like, so there is that mindset of, oh, this app or this software does something really cool, without the thought of, yeah, but if it talked to this software that also does something really cool, or if they were one software, that's where we're in an app world. We have an app mentality, and so
we are an app world right now. But it wouldn't be. I mean, I think we can get there. There are possibilities where all of these, come and become one ecosystem. I mean, they are an ecosystem, and then you have probably one platform to go to, and everyone talks. Everything is talking to each other. So you have a comprehensive look of all the projects that you're probably functioning at right now. I think that would be great. But before that, as you said, adoption and making people use is important, because otherwise you never see the ROI for what you probably purchase your software for. So that's a good analogy when you said, like, we are living in an app world. We have hundreds.
We are living in an app world.
We probably use 3 of them every day. So it's funny, but it's money. It's impacting the bottom line. So
it is.
Yeah. So that's something to be mindful of. So and then you talked about lean, and I think both of these go hand in hand. Lean is about, automating and Lean is about minimizing waste, and doing redundant tasks over and over again is actually a waste. And so finding ways to automate stuff is somewhere related to, lean mindset at some point. And it's important that people understand the value in it. I think some of the interactions I've had with some shop for folks in construction, it's not very welcoming, the whole concept of lean.
When you said lean, it's all about eliminating waste. You say that to a construction guy and they think, oh, okay, well, it's going to help me. I'm not going to cut off this much of the wood, and I'm going to save this many screws, and when there's so much more that's wasted than material. There's time, there's effort, there's all these different things. In the construction world, you don't think about. So
I think that's the mindset that should become, like, we come from manufacturing, and then bringing that mindset to construction and making people believe that, yes, it is possible. There are tons of lean leaders actually spreading the message, and I'm really fortunate to have met some of them. But it's not a no in construction, especially offsite construction. That's offsites gives the best platform to actually implement all these lean methodologies, see the efficiency, and then make things happen and make you more efficient while you're doing this. And that brings me to one question that I've had, especially because you're a business development in the business development role. How there have been some questions that I get asked sometimes also, like, how do you prove that offsite is actually really cheaper than stick build? And there are different theories going around. So far, I don't see, when I say cheaper, I'm not saying the method, the mode, material, labor, freight, whatever involved all over is cheaper. In my head, the time in making the buildings happen makes the whole process cheaper is a value add that I have been trying to
Mhm,
get the clients who are still stuck in the old ways.
mhm,
What has
mhm,
been your message, and how do you, when you're talking to your clients and you're
mhm.
tracking, how do you pitch that message and why offsite is better?
Well, you bring up a great point. We've all been building a certain way for hundreds of years, and so companies and corporations are comfortable with the system. They know what it's going to cost. They've got it figured out. They know how to make money at it. It's simple. It's easy. They've been doing it all this time, and there's no that you can pull it off without really a great deal of glitches. So introducing anything new to anybody is always a challenge because people hate, for the most part, people hate change. So you have to make it appealing. And the way that I have gone about it is to explain that because I actually work in an industry where our material is a little bit more expensive than wood.
Mm-hmm.
And so people immediately discount it because, oh, I'm going to pay 10 to 15% more for my material without stopping and thinking about, yes, but it's such a design led methodology so that you're starting with design very early and you're doing things like clash detection that you never could do before. Your clash detection before was I build the walls, the plumber shows up, he finds a clash and he has to deal with it, which is just ridiculous in the world that we live in today. When you have the ability to solve all that in the beginning without a spade full of dirt being turned on a site, so you can do all of that. You're building. You're doing 75% of the structure offsite while dirt work, while all these things are being done, so that when you have a slab poured, you are able to show up. You can erect a structure I just had a podcast guest on that said a quarter of the time. They've had projects where they were able to cut 75% of the labor time to erect their structure. Now that's not the standard for sure. I've seen anywhere from 25 to 75%. So what I always the one that I'm always using to people right now is, especially in the commercial world, if you're building your hotel with offsite construction and the neighbor down the street is not, and they're doing it a traditional way, and you finish your project 3 months earlier than that guy does, you now have 3 months of revenue that they don't have.
Yep. Yep.
And so your return on your investment is much faster. Your construction loan time went down. You're not paying as much in interest. Your insurances, all of the things, you have to spell it out. So this is what I tell people. Offsite prefabrication should not be looked at with line item pricing mentality. It should be looked at on a pro forma basis, so that you got to look at everything like you're a developer and say, well, if I do all of this, this is how much I save overall, not just my framing is this much and my framing is this much and my mechanical. Let's put the whole thing together and see how it comes out at the end. And we're finding that we're actually cheaper when you utilize prefab and offsite construction methods. You come out ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about time and landed costs. We cannot be
Yep.
just talking, as you said, material. Okay. I'm not going to do offsite because
Time is a huge one. Time, it should be that it's about time.
yeah,
Yeah.
time, quality, and
Mm-hmm.
then being more a sustainable way to
Mm-hmm.
build. I think all of these are enough value add for anyone to be choosing construction. Since you were here, I'd absolutely think this was a great point to bring up. All right, we are almost coming towards the end. Before I leave, I share two to three quick takeaways from your experience for our audience on your lessons that you want to share with everyone.
Okay, this is a good one coming from an old guy. Use social media. Uh, you're in the construction world, and you think, yeah, that's not for me. I don't, I sit at home on the weekend and look at TikTok and Instagram. That's not something I should be advertising my business on. You're very, very, very wrong. You need to leverage social media. And if you're not the kind of person that's creative, then use LinkedIn. Use something that you don't feel threatened by everybody that's doing all the flashy around you. Get on there and just share about your company, share about yourself. I'm not the kind that likes to get on and show pictures of my kids and my dog, and this is my new hairdo and stuff. So yeah, but you can still make it work, and it's huge. So social media. Let's see, other big takeaway. Don't fear change. You've got to learn to embrace change. It was hard for me as well. But if you adapt the mentality where you get comfortable with change when it's necessary, it makes those times when you need to pivot or you need to take another look. It makes it so much easier. And you have to learn to do it. You have to learn to do it in this industry, or you will not stay in business very long. And so I think that the constructors of the future are going to be those that changed soonest, most often, adapted. And I guess the word that I'm going to change and throw in there for the word change is innovate. So those that innovate more, think more about innovation, are going to be the real winners.
Awesome. Change forces you to innovate, right?
Absolutely does.
Yeah, that's the push towards innovation.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Here
Mhm.
is when I wanted to give you the plug for Build It Better podcast.
Oh, you were? Oh, I didn't know that you were going to talk about it. How
Okay.
nice of you.
All right. So, hey, listeners, please go check out Build It Better with FrameCad podcast that Robert hosts. There are some amazing guests that I have myself been listening to nuggets of, and he shares it actively. Robert shares it actively on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, go check him out. Make sure you follow him. I'm gonna give all the details in the description of the video once you're checking out. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in learning more about Offsite, feel free to connect with him. Absolutely tune into the podcasts, my podcast. Let me know any feedback. I would love to make go evolve, change, innovate as I go with this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thanks, Robert, for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And all right, signing off from LA. Hope you all have a great week. Thank you. Bye.